Hey guys, so as I mentioned in my 2017 goals video, I want to start doing some craft and art and card related videos and tutorials for you, and today is the first of them. Unfortunately, we're not starting off on quite the most positive note. A friend of mine recently lost his husband and I need to make a condolence card, and while I'm at it I figured I would go ahead and make a few to have on hand. So I'm going to show you two different techniques that obviously you can apply to any card that you want to make. It doesn't have to just be condolence. They're pretty versatile techniques that you can really incorporate into any card, any occasion, any style really. So let's get started. So I'm going to be showing you an embossed resist technique with some ink blending, and we'll save the watercolor resist for another day. But I'm starting with just plain 110-pound white cardstock. The other supplies I'm using are on the screen and will also be listed in the description below. But basically what I'm doing is I'm inking up my stamps, they're all leaf stamps, with the Versamark ink, which is really good for embossing because it's nice and sticky. And I'm just going to cover the entire page with these clear embossed stamped images. And then what I'm going to do is cover those in clear embossing powder. Now this will kind of set the ink, but it will also act as a resist, meaning that when I go to blend my inks over top of this, wherever I've put the embossing powder, none of the ink is going to take to the paper because it's protected with that layer of embossing powder. So I'm going to have this nice white image that's going to show through of all the stamping that I did, and it's also going to be raised and a little bit glossy. So really, really fun and easy technique if you've got the supplies. So I'm just going to start laying down some color. I'm going to work kind of in color order. So think of colors that blend together. Obviously the colors I picked all work together, but I'm going to blend them darkest to lightest so that I've got a nice gradient effect. To blend them, I'm using, this is actually a cosmetic sponge. You can buy blending tools, but I didn't happen to have any on hand. And I found that these really dense cosmetic sponges work really well for this. They lay an even amount of color and they blend out really well. And I'm kind of a convert to these, so maybe I'll pick up some more blending tools, but for now I'm kind of really digging this whole thing. So I just started with that darkest blue color. I haven't put any of the purple down. I'm going to save that for the end because I wasn't sure if I wanted it. But I blended on a good amount of the darkest blue and then moved into the sort of transition blue, and I overlapped them so that they're going to blend nicely together. Here I'm working in the teal, which isn't quite as bold as I was wanting it to be or expecting it to be, but I'm still going to go ahead with it because it's going to make that nice transition in between my medium blue, which was Candy Shop Blue, and my green, which, as you're about to see, is way, way brighter than I was anticipating. So I put this down and I was kind of like, whoa. It was also a very juicy ink and wasn't wanting to blend out as much, so I do kind of have to work with it a bit, and I go back in with the blue and the teal to kind of mute that down a little bit and make them work together and play nice. I added just a touch of the yellow on the bottom corner, and now I'm going to go in with that deeper sort of purple indigo shade at the top corner just to kind of finish it off. I decided I did want that little bit of extra dark. And then any other blending that I do is just to make sure things are nice and even and kind of ensure that everything is playing nicely together. So here I'm just going to go ahead and finish off the blending, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now, as you can see, everything is nice and vibrant and well contrasted, but there's some ink sitting on top of that embossing powder. So I'm just going to take a plain little cotton pad. You can use anything, paper towel, a cotton ball, a dry rag, just anything dry. You don't want to activate the ink again, but just something to wipe off any of the ink that's sitting on top to really make those whites pop. Now I'm just going to kind of trim it down a little bit because I decided I wanted a white border when I put it on my card base so that it will tie together with the white of the resist. And I also decided to reorient it so that the lighter shade is actually at the top and the deeper shade is at the bottom, a little more grounded. Now I'm taking just a piece of white cardstock, and I drew a little line of where I kind of want it to end, and I'm writing my sentiment on it. It says, "Thinking of you." I'm going to go over that with a black marker. This is a really, really fine-tipped micron. And once I've gone over the whole thing, I'm going to erase my pencil marks and go over it once again, but only on the downstroke. So this is something called foligraphy, which is going to make it look like calligraphy without having to use a specialized calligraphy pen. So by thickening only where you would draw down and none of the up lines, you're going to get a nice weight variation to it that will make it look like you had some fancy tools when you didn't. Now I'm just prepping my card base, so this is another piece of plain cardstock that is 5.5 by 8.5, so that when it's folded in half it will be a standard A2 sized card. I used a scoring board for this just to make sure it's nice and even, but honestly, you don't need that. You can just fold it in half and eyeball it. It's fine. Now I'm just gluing it on with some Tombow adhesive and centering that in the middle of the card. And I'm going to put my sentiment that we made earlier, the thinking of you, on top. But first I need to trim it down, and I'm also going to dock one end of it so it looks a little more like a ribbon. Now I'm just going to stick some foam squares on the back, and you're going to see that it's colored on one side. That's because I kind of practiced my ink blending on a scrap sheet just to make sure that I had the colors that I wanted, and I figured I'd go ahead and reuse that sheet rather than let it go to waste. So I just cut a strip and used the reverse side of it that was still nice and clean and white. Now I'm just going to stick that on, and there you have the finished card. So here are a few other examples of how I use this technique. As I said, it's very versatile and it's a great way to get color on a card. And over here you're seeing the other technique I was going to show you, which is another resist using watercolor and liquid mask, but we'll save that for another day. And there you have it. Obviously, as I said, it's not limited to condolence cards. You can incorporate those techniques into any occasion, any style. So let me know your thoughts in the comments if you want to see more things like this. And if you have specific techniques or styles that you like to use in your own art, painting, card making, anything like that, let me know. I would love to hear about it. I will see you again on Thursday for a brand new video, but until then, thank you guys for watching.